Hey, welcome back, guys, and it is now time to install the rear main seal, and we may also be doing something with the oil pump here. So we got it all cleaned up, and we also got all of our bolts and the windage tray and the pickup and everything all ready to go. So wanted to just show you a couple things here with this motor, and some of the modifications needed whenever you do the balance shaft delete. We got the oil pump pickup. No laughing at the welds there. It does not leak. So I don't have a TIG, and so what you do is you use a MIG, and you just keep welding till it doesn't leak. So you make one pass on it, and then you go back, check it with some brake clean, and see where it's leaking. Mark it with Sharpie. Go back and weld those spots up. It takes about 3 or 4 attempts. And basically what we do is we take where this was up like this from the factory, cut that off, and move the pickup down. So what that does is gives us the oil pan clearance we need. Also have to chamfer the top of the pickup assembly here. So we got that. We're going to use that later. And the windage tray will need modified. And I have it marked here. We have to open up these bolt holes in order to get everything to line up and be able to be bolted down. So we're just going to open that up and open those up. We're not going to do that on camera. We'll show you that next time. And then you do have to trim this off right here on this line. And what I do is I use this little bead right here as a guide. If you cut right underneath that bead all the way across, that will make it so that it'll set flush on the motor. The difference is this is made for a 2.3 block, and we're working with a 2.4 block. So in order to get it to clear, you have to remove this lower piece here. Otherwise, it hits the block and it sets up. It actually sets kind of like that on the block instead of level. So the rest of it, pretty much the way it is. You can leave it alone. Now the pickup brace, which some people will run these without a brace. I don't like doing that because it's a pretty harsh environment we're running in. So what we do is we want to run the brace, and you can fabricate your own brace and everything, but we, being that we're stingy, we're on a budget, we reuse our existing stuff as much as we can. So what we do is we cut this off just with the cutoff wheel, and then we're going to mock it up on the motor, and we'll clamp it with a couple pair of vice grips, and we'll take and we'll weld it. So what happens is this is going to set down like this gets. Let's see. This gets offset. Once that's cut off, this piece will slide down along here, and then you can weld it on one side, and you don't have to weld it solid. You can just do like maybe 3 1-inch welds across there, and then a couple 1-inch welds on this side. If you want to weld it solid, you can, but that's not really necessary. And then that's our brace assembly. And what we do is we mock that up on the motor and put the bolts in it, tighten it down and everything, and then we get our marks where we need it and clamp it, and then bring it over and weld it up. And then we can just put it right back on. So that's for another date. And little shop tip here: if you're putting a motor together or something, do yourself a favor and do what I did here. Left these in the Sonic Cleaner. Picked up a Sonic Cleaner with coupon from Harbor Freight. They're about $80, and they do a great job. Just use some Simple Green, about 50-50 Simple Green and water, and it has a heating mechanism, and I think it'll run for 5 minutes. So we did 2 5-minute cycles, and everything came out nice and clean. So whenever you're working with it, fingers stay clean. And then of course we've got everything organized here on different bolts, different lengths. Everything's laid out, all the nuts that we need and studs and whatnot. And all this does is it makes the engine assembly process much more satisfying, a lot more fun. So it does take a little bit of time to do that and to get this all organized, but whenever you're done, it's a much more satisfying experience to do it that way. So that's your shop tip. So we're going to put the rear main seal in. We'll show you how to do that. There's a special tool that you can use, but today this is our special tool: block of wood and a hammer. Real simple. And we're going to use this little guy too. I'll show you that. And if we have enough time, we may even get into assembling the oil pump. So I'll show you what that's all about. And there were some modifications we needed to do with the pump. Of course, there's a little thing that sticks up here. You got to take that off, and then you have to grind this down here, and then on the back cover plate, you have to chamfer the edges on that a little bit. So we got that. We have a couple shims there. You see a little bend in there. This is not the important part. The important part to keep straight is out here. But I don't know if we're going to need those yet. We're gonna check and see if we need those. But I doubt it. I've never had to use those, but it's nice to have them just in case. And the final part that needs modified is the oil pan. So let's get the oil pan in here. And there's a central baffle right here, basically just a vein. To take that out, and then you grind on the back here, and this is ground down here, but this has some machinist dye on it, which I'll clean off. There's a piece here, you got to cut that off, and then you grind this down. I just use a flapper wheel and a grinder and take it down a little bit here, a little bit here, and it gets kind of thin, but you can feel the thickness there. It's not too bad, but it's a little scary doing these because just about the time you think that you're going to burn right through the pan, you have enough clearance. So, but if you feel it, there's still a little bit of thickness, and there's maybe 80, 90 thousandths, so not too bad. I don't know the exact thickness. I would have to use a set of calipers on that, but yeah, we just grind it and then clean it, test fit it, grind it, clean it, test fit it, and it's just a nice, tedious process to get it done. So we got that. So let's get that out of the way, and let's get to putting the rear main seal in. So we're going to prop the camera up over here. Let's get this guy propped up. So we'll show you all the tricks necessary for this. Let's get you set up here. There we go. That should stay right there. Hopefully that doesn't drift. Hopefully. Okay. All right. So we got our gasket BS 40591. That. And if you've seen the other quad 4 assembly video, you'll know that you can reuse this gasket in the back if you put a little bit of sealant on it. I use like a brush-on aviation Permatex, but since this is a new build, brand new gasket, this gets nothing, goes on dry, and I've never seen these leak if they're put on correctly. We'll do that. Put that to the side for now. We're going to take our seal, and it does have an inside and outside. The inside, you can see if you look down in there, there's a little spring that keeps tension on the seal. So we want that to face the motor. So this would be the outside of the motor, which we got the plain side out. Now, make this a little bit easier, we're going to use just a little bit of Marvel Mystery Oil, just any lubricant, 3-in-1 oil, motor oil, anything. I just happen to have that in a little container there. And then we're going to take a little bit of that and just on the inside here. It just makes installing the seal a little easier, and you don't want to soak it. In fact, I'm going to take some of that excess off. Basically, just want to get a little bit on there. There we go. That looks pretty good. Maybe just take a little bit more off. Yeah, I just want a little bit of a sheen to it. I don't want a bunch of oil floating around in there. So we're going to center that up and get it where it's nice and even. We don't want to, whenever you put this in there, you don't want to start it crooked like that. So I'm going to get it where it's nice and flat. You can feel that feels pretty good. So then take our block of wood and center it up. And what I'm doing is I'm centering it this way. And you can see a little bit of the seal here and a little bit of the seal there. So I'm going to strike right in the middle. Just give it a couple taps. check it. It's going in pretty good. Maybe rotate it a little bit, 90 degrees. Let's try it again. Turn it. Again. And again. At that point, we're flush, but we're not seated all the way down in here. So how do we get it down in there? This is where your special tool will come in handy. In this case, we're going to use a, it's not a center punch, it's an alignment tool that has the end cut off, so it's nice and flat. And want to make sure we stay off this lip here, the inside lip. We want to stay right against the outside of the seal, and almost up against this this outer cover plate. I'm just going to give it a little tap. Move around. Very little at a time because I don't want to twist that seal. A little bit. You can see I'm not hitting it real hard. There, it's really starting to slide down in. It's almost there. Let's see here. And I'm looking to see, there's a little chamfer on this edge, and if I'm looking at that chamfer, and it's not quite seated all the way yet. It's almost there. I can see it moving a little bit. And I can feel it too. It's not moving anymore. You can hear the note changing just a little bit. You don't want to pound that too hard. And there's a little relief here and here. I'm looking and I can see the seal is actually bottomed against this surface in here. So I think we're good to go. Yep, there's a little relief there too. I can see it. It's completely bottomed. So that is ready to go on the motor. We're going to coat that with some of the louver plate before we put that on. But while we have you on camera, we're going to go ahead and put our oil pump together. So let's slide this over here. Slide this over. Don't need that anymore. Hopefully we're not going to need that anymore. Let's check our camera and make sure we can see everything. Yep, we're good to go. All right. So I'm not sure if we're going to need the shims, but we're going to keep those handy. All right. So first thing I'd like to do is just to get the pump sealed up. Go ahead and put the vane in the pump, and there's no top side or bottom side of this, but I did keep the orientation correct whenever I pulled it out. Whenever I pulled it out this way and set it down so I can put it back in exactly the same way. And we're going to use just a tiny bit of assembly lube on this, just a little bit, nothing crazy. Just going to rub it in there. Really won't take much because oil is going to come up in here pretty quickly. We're going to turn the motor over by hand to build the oil pressure up and get the oil up flowing through the motor. And then once that's flowing, then we'll put the oil filter on, and you'll see whenever you start cranking it, you'll see oil start coming out of where the oil filter mounts. You'll see oil start to come out of there, and that's how you know oil is starting to get picked up by the pump. And you can just do that by hand. And then let's get that little guy in there. Good. And let's get a towel. Excess off, and you can see I didn't pack that in there. It's just a real thin coating. You don't need anything crazy. So this is our plate. Now the plate, it's a little asymmetric the way I had to clearance it, the grinding in this side versus the grinding on this side, the tapering. So there is a gasket that goes with that. It's right there. So no sealant needed on that. It'll seal just fine. But I have a little, just scratch a little arrow there where it goes toward the USA symbol right there. So just set that down. And then we got our T30 bolts that go in. Try and do this so you can see. It's getting dark out. It's getting dark early. Wintertime. You can see I got my coat on. I've been doing a house remodel. There's some videos coming up on my channel that so you can see some of that stuff. But, I've been working on the inside, you know, being that the weather was down into the mid-20s. So this had to be put off just for a little while because we're out here in an unheated shed. I'm not going to tighten these down all the way just yet. Just kind of snug them down. It's getting almost like finger tight. And then we're going to tighten them. Tighten good. All right, just to make sure, we'll take our bit. Let's see here. Use our adapter here and a 1/4 inch drive socket, which is that one. 30 seconds. 1/4 inch. Okay. There's another little tip. If you don't have a driver for one of these, besides your screwdriver, if you want to put a little bit more torque on, this is a 1/4 inch. Just put that in a 1/4 inch socket. It will fall out real easy, so you have to be careful with that. And use your adapter, and you can use the ratchet on that. So again, it'll just fall right out, but you can put it in there. Put it in. Put a ratchet on it, and give it a little bit more. I'm going to show you a way to keep it in there too, where it doesn't fall out. This is only 4 bolts, and I can see it, so it's not a big deal. Little tip on keeping that from falling out: take a little bit of a shop rag, tear a little tiny piece, put it over the hole, shove it down in. You can use it; it won't fall out until you pull it out. So there's your shop tip. All right, so we got that. Our pump, and this plate goes on here. And from the factory, this is all assembled dry. I like to put a little bit of sealant on this because this is going to be used in some sustained high RPM use. So use just a little bit of sealant on this. This is our anaerobic gasket maker. And you don't really need much at all. I mean, you should be able to see through it really. Just really, really thin. Basically, all you're doing is putting it on there, and you can say that you put some on there. That's all about all the more you need. Nothing crazy at all. Just wipe that around. Just want to make sure all the oil that the pickup picks up and the pumps goes to where it's supposed to go. So you don't have to make a mess of that. Just roll nice and clean. You start getting that in there where it's real thick too. Whenever you squeeze that down, you get a lot of squeeze out. Whenever it's tightened down, you get a lot of squeeze out, and then that just makes a mess. Place that there. And by the way, if you didn't know, this is your pressure relief valve here. All right, and then we got a couple bolts to hold that in on this side. We're going to just, because we're dealing with bolts on both sides, we're not going to tighten any of those down just yet, but we are going to take a little bit more of our gasket maker here. And it's hard to get my finger down around there. Probably should have did this before I put that on there, but But it does, so we can just put it on here and it'll be fine. Absolutely fine. Again, really super thin. I just want to just add a little bit of protection against that leaking. I don't want so much that it'll squeeze out and end up, getting down in here and a piece possibly breaking off. Even though I believe this goes straight to the oil pump or to the oil filter first. So I don't think we'd have a problem with that, but we don't want to take any chances. And that is just a wee bit on there. Okay. So before we tighten those down, I'm going to set this up. Make these up together. Get the bolt started. So next episode, we're going to put the rear main seal on. We'll have the windage tray. It'll be modified, and which takes all of about 5 minutes, maybe 10. 6 minutes and 30 seconds. It just takes a couple minutes to modify that. Then it has to be cleaned, Now the support bracket here, that takes a little while, but we're not worried about that because the windage tray will be bolted down well and truly before that. And this will sit in here like so, but this will be a little bit shorter. Simple. All right. And you can see how that moves around. That's why we didn't want to tighten this up, because if this moves around, it could be hard, it could make it hard to get these bolts started. So once everything's started, it doesn't really matter which sequence you tighten them down in. Since we're working on this side, I'm just going to do this side. And that's aluminum we're tightening into, so you don't have to go crazy. I'm sure there's a torque spec somewhere. We use the German method, good and tight. There we go. And 10 millimeter. There we go. That's it. So next time you see this will be going on the motor. We're going to have the windage tray modified. We'll show you that. And we're going to put the rear main seal on. We're going to try and do all of that in one video. And I'm even going to have this modified. I will show you what it looks like, but I'm not going to show you the whole process. I can show you what it looks like whenever it's done, and then you can do it on your own. So it's fine. But I think that's about it. Well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.